Hi there. Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. My name is Paz Zuniga, and I'm a senior product manager in the edtech space. And I'm also the co founder of Latinas in Product, which is an affinity group that actually started in this conference. I'm Latina with long black hair and bangs, and I'm here with my good friend Erica, who is going to introduce herself. Erica?
Thank you, Paz. It's great to be here. Good afternoon. My name is Erika Torres. I am a psychologist by training and a senior clinical program manager at Able2. Um, and I work in the product space as well. And I have short hair. I'm a Latina, light brown skin, wearing a bit of a orangey shirt with a white background. Take it away, Paz.
Thank you, Erica. So we are very excited to be here. Thank you again. As social scientists turned PM, we have been reflecting some of the shared skill sets that both areas have in common. We think a lot about how these techniques and principles can be leveraged into product management, and there are several commonalities that actually social sciences have with product management. So, for example, we have the user research, where the understanding behind the needs, behaviors, and interests can inform the development of products. And there are other several examples that we can provide. However, we want to focus on the concepts of communication and collaboration, more specifically in the work environment, where we navigate every day, right? So applying these social science techniques to get basically things done. The reason why we feel so passionate about this, it's because many paths lead to product. Many PMs are may not be as very methodical in how they approach things, and they are overwhelmed sometimes when there is no real standard or recipe for approaching things, and particularly with product. So with all the different stakeholders, we think that social science can help you navigate a little bit of these turbulent waters. So we want you to imagine yourself for a moment, whether you are more a senior experienced product manager or you're just starting your career, and imagine what it was like when you join a new team. Um, what was at stake there? You need to navigate several processes, understand business, managing the backlog, different priorities, etc. And you own all these initiatives. But at the core of all this, the fundamental part is human relationships. We are not going to get anything done if we don't have healthy relationships with our coworkers, managers, and all stakeholders in general. So, therefore, our conversation today will focus on social science principles that will help you dissect the anatomy of a healthy work relationship in the context of the product management experience. We have a few concepts that we want to run by you, and we want to give you some of the important takeaways that um, that are part of the psychology principles and educational ones. So the first three that come from psychology, which is rapport building, active listening, and boundary setting, and the other two are educational principles and techniques, which is scaffolding and differentiated instruction. Let me go to the next slide, and I will pass it to Erica, who is going to start with these three principles that come from psychology.
Yes, thank you, Boss. I'm very excited to share some of these tidbits because a lot of this may seem pretty obvious and, not like super new to you, but sometimes we need to label and understand and call out some of the concepts that we may or may not be applying so that we have more insight into how we might be more intentional about applying some of these strategies that could really help us. And so ultimately being able to get things done requires that we have close relationships with the people we work with. It doesn't mean that we need to like everyone or get along with everyone or be friends with everyone. It just means we need to figure out how to work together. And being able to build rapport is extremely important because it's really at the center of how we connect with others as humans, right? And the scenarios for this are endless, but think about when you need to ask for help to get things done, right? Which is a day in the life of the product manager, right? Or folks in product working cross functionally. You need to work with other individuals, other teams like engineering or design or marketing, et cetera, to get things done. And so our ability to have those connections, genuine connections, is really, really important. So the approach here would be to offer helpful information to folks that you work with, to explain things clearly, express curiosity and genuine curiosity about how they're doing, how they approach things, how they see things. You don't have to agree. You just want to understand what's their perspective. And also to be able to relate to them at a more personal level. And again, this doesn't mean that you have to share your life story or you have to become best friends, but there's an element of camaraderie and an element of connection, just even if it's about like what you had for lunch or how is it going for you as a new member of the team, it's going to be really important. And ultimately, it can build that trust to really support other elements of the relationship building, which we will get into in a minute. So if you can continue, Paz, please. So how do we actually build relationships? We listen, right? So I want to invite you to think about a time where you felt really listened to. Like, what did that feel in your body? How did you know that you were being listened to? How was that experience just different than not being listened to, right? Because sometimes we go to the feelings around like, oh, when folks didn't pay attention to me or didn't listen to me, and it doesn't feel good, right? It doesn't feel good to not be listened to. And in this day and age where we're all distracted, many of us are on Zoom all the time, we're multitasking, we're often, asking the same question that we just answered and clearly not paying attention to what people are saying. I know I've been there, right? I've done that where I might have asked a question that was just answered, but I was multitasking and wasn't paying attention. That person probably didn't feel really good about me doing that, right? That probably affected our relationship a little bit. So it's important to really actively listen, to have a functional role in how we communicate with each other, how we understand issues, how we understand different points of view. It helps build trust and understanding between two people. And this obviously is going to help across all different settings, specifically around aligning on certain deliverables that impact multiple teams, right? Because there's often the way that product interprets something versus how engineering interprets it. It's almost like we're talking different languages, and we need to really come to terms with what we're saying and how we're doing it and what are the deliverables ahead of us. And if we're not actively listening, that just makes it even harder. So how do we do this? We want to truly pay attention to what folks are saying, and make eye contact, all those like basic social skills that hopefully we haven't altogether forgotten about since COVID. We want to seek to understand what the other person is saying, and sometimes I know I do this a lot. We're waiting for the opportunity to just respond. Like, when is it my turn to jump in, as opposed to really paying attention to what's happening and trying to understand what the other person is saying. And that's just human. We're doing the best we can. And can we be more self-reflective about when that happens so that we can correct ourselves? We also want to reflect back to what we heard, and not just like parroting back, but really taking in what was said and reflecting it. So if someone says, yes, we need to deliver this by such date, and we have these other areas of the roadmap that we need to work on, we don't necessarily need to repeat the same thing. We can just say, oh, like, it sounds like we have a lot going on and this sprint is really busy because we have these 4 different things. Tell me more about that. What is the priority? How do you want to align on how we get this done? And then to be able to summarize what were the takeaways. Like, how many times have we been in a meeting where there may or may not have been an agenda, We may or may not have been listening. Probably everyone was multitasking. And then at the end of it, you're like, okay, so why am I here? Like, what's next? Right. So we want to be able to lead with some of those key takeaways for next steps. And I wanted to just leave you on this point of active listening with a tidbit around some research that is emerging around how active listening can even impact when folks are delivering bad news in the context of layoffs. So when a supervisor is talking about the layoffs and someone is affected by them, the fact that they felt actively listened to impacts how that person receiving that information perceived their sense of control and well-being, even if in the end they were still laid off, right? So it's really, it can't, I can't emphasize enough how important it is and what a basic skill it is, but so complicated sometimes to tap into. Okay, and last but not least, for me, on the areas around psychology and relationship building, I think boundary setting is also really important, because boundary setting essentially is the ways in which we communicate to others how we want them to treat us, how we want them to behave towards us. And it's really an ability to respectfully say yes or say no. I think sometimes we think about boundaries as only like saying no to things. And I think for some of us who might be more, have a tendency to say yes to more things and get ourselves in trouble, then that might be more relevant for you. But in general, it's the ability to discern, when can I commit to something, when am I willing to do it, and when I cannot, and how to respond accordingly. And of course, this is again relevant across the board, but one specific scenario that comes up is when folks come to us asking us to do more work, right? Of course, that never happens. It's just, right, it's happening to us all the time, and we need to navigate that. And so we want to really understand the ask, like, what do you want me to do? And that's where the listening comes in as well, right? And the relationship. And then you want to identify, can I do this task? Do I want to do this task? Which is actually kind of two different but related things. I may be able to help you, but I may not want to, not because I'm a jerk, but because I have other things to do. Or maybe I am a jerk and I just don't want to help you. But whatever the reason is, we want to be able to identify what we can do and what we want to do and what we're able to do. And then sometimes, I think people might wonder when you set the boundary, like, why not? And so there may be a need for like a tiny explanation on, this is why I can't help you right now. But also to be able to offer alternatives. And part of understanding the ask is like, maybe you're asking me to do something, but I can be more helpful by helping you find the person who can actually help you with the thing that you're asking. Because I may not be the right person to do the work, even if I'm willing and able to do it. And sometimes, I've experienced asks as disguised as opportunities, like, oh, there's this amazing thing, you're going to be great at it. Here's like, 20 hours more of work for your backlog. I think you'll be amazing. It'll be a great career opportunity. And you may or may not perceive it that way. It may or may not be that way. And so you can just say, no, thank you, if that's not what fits for you. And that ability to set those healthy boundaries around what you can and cannot do is also going to fuel that positive relationship, because people will know what to expect from you. It really helps with expectation setting. All right. So, and then just to kind of move us into the topic that Paz is going to talk about, all of this is important because when it comes down to us being able to break down information so that people hear what we're saying, we need to have that strong relationship before we do that. And so without further ado, Paz is going to talk a little bit more about how important it is to think about how we present that information.
Thank you, Erica. Yes, so we know we have, as she said, right, we need to approach how things, how we listen, what kind of relationship we're building. But the other part is the how we present this and how we tailor these things to different stakeholders. So both of these concepts, scaffolding and differentiated instructions, come from education. Teachers use these as common practices for introducing concepts and, of course, engaging students, engaging people. Um, So the first one, scaffolding, refers to basically breaking up concepts, new concepts, so they can be digested more easily. Um, the emphasis in here is heavily on how we connect the old concepts to the new ones. So we set up some kind of foundation. While the differentiated instruction is tailoring content, how to meet the different stakeholders' individual interests, needs, or behavior. So remind yourself, like, remind how we product managers, sometimes we're so focused on the why, and we need to explain this to every single person in our company. Before jumping into that, we would suggest you that you need to bridge a little bit of the knowledge that they each stakeholder have would have in this case. So scaffolding in this case, try to know, assess exactly what they know, and try to get them where you want them to. A common technique that teachers use for this, it's like some visual organizers, and of course this includes some storytelling. So try to focus on each branch if you want to, as a mind map, to focus on one stakeholder, what is that they know, and how you want them to, what you want them to know, and how you're going to get there. So through that strategy, that you are only not going to be to have stakeholders that are more engaged, but they're going to be easily understand what you want to go. Um, and the second part is basically to tailor, right? Think about what they really want, what they really care about, and approach the message in that way. Um, so let's, for example, as we have in here, let's say that we have a compliance change for our product. Um, Try to focus on what they care. And in this, for example, tech would care about data retention, while business and marketing would care how you communicate this to customers and how this impacts their data. So try to really be strategic on how you're going to approach each of these conversations, and this would definitely help you navigate into how you are going to, probably going to say no or going to say yes, and move into and build into this relationship in that will help you get things done in the end. um, right, so this was part, the final part of how you can tackle the building relationship, and how you help your stakeholders um, get them where you want. We have a few takeaways in here, the and which are basically 4 steps, right? So first, know your audience. Second, build relationships. Step 3, seek to understand. And step 4, set clear boundaries. So basically, you need to identify what your stakeholders know and what they care about. Then you set up one coffee virtual coffee meetings with colleagues, as Erika explained, where you try to build that relationship. Um, then you can also set up a huddle meeting with alignment. Say like, okay, what I hear you saying is, and trying to really actively listen what they are telling you. And finally, say no or say yes, depending on but being very clear and seek why you would really be interested in. It would be beneficial for you to say yes if that's so. So in the case you say no, I am not able to help you with X at this time, but perhaps you can ask Erica or someone else.
Yeah, send them all to me,
um,
Paz.
exactly. That's what I'm
That's
gonna
right.
do.
Send them to your friends. Well, this concludes our presentation. It's been a pleasure chatting about this, and we're looking forward to the live Q&A that's coming up. And feel free to reach out to us. We are connected. We're on LinkedIn. Reach us through email. We look forward to connecting with you and learning with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Adios.
Adios.